welcome back to my channel, Taylor Talks Tales. Today I have another book review for you guys, and it's on one that is kind of making the rounds on BookTube, and that is Winterwood by Shea Ernshaw, which just take a look at that beautiful cover. I'm going to read the inside flap for you, and then we're going to get into this. Be careful of the dark, dark woods, especially the woods surrounding the town of Fairhaven. Some say these woods are magical, cursed even. Rumored to be a witch, only Nora Walker knows the truth. She and the Walker women before her have always shared a special connection with the woods. And it's this special connection that leads Nora to Oliver Huntsman, the same boy who disappeared from the Camp for Wayward Boys weeks ago, and in the middle of the worst snowstorm in years. He should be dead, but here he is alive and left in the woods, with no memory of the time he'd been missing. But Nora can feel an uneasy shift in the woods at Oliver's presence. And it's not too long after that Nora realizes she has no choice but to unearth the truth behind how the boy she's come to care so deeply about survived his time in the forest, and what led him there in the first place. What Nora doesn't know, though, is that Oliver has secrets of his own, secrets he'll do anything to keep buried, because as it turns out, he wasn't the only one who went missing on that fateful night all those weeks ago. For as long as there have been fairy tales, we have been warned to fear what lies within the dark, dark woods, and in Winterwood, New York Times bestselling author Shea Ernshaw shows us why. Alright, so this book, I picked it up because I pretty much want to watch and read and just consume anything that has witches in it. I'm super into witches, witchcraft, magic, magical realism, anything like that. And I'd also read The Wicked Deep by this author a while ago and really enjoyed that book quite a bit. I think I gave it a solid 4 stars, maybe like 4.25, because it was pretty good. Not without its flaws, but enjoyable, and I've heard that they're making a Netflix adaptation of that book, so you know, hopefully that goes well. So I enjoyed that. So I had high hopes for this book. And the thing is, it's pretty good, but not amazing or great, if that makes sense. I'm going to give this a 3.5 stars, and part of it has to do with so the positives of it. It's beautifully written. It's super atmospheric, and I was reading it feeling very cold and just eerie, and she does a really good job describing everything, describing the woods and the magic and the Camp for Wayward Boys and all of that was really well done. And there are also these like little sort of like excerpts of this one spell book that was like part of the Walker women's history that I really liked throughout it, like spell book of Moonlight and Forest Medicine. I really liked these little snippets throughout the entire book. I felt like it added quite a bit to it, so I thought that was super enjoyable. And yeah, the prose was good, but it was also very repetitive. Nora mentions that she's a walker I don't even know how many times in this book. Moonlight in her veins. There were just so many things that kept being repeated over and over and over again, and I just thought, okay, this has already been mentioned multiple times. Yes, everybody thinks you're a witch. Everybody's like this. So it did get to be a bit grating on my nerves a bit. Yes, because seriously, especially when she kept saying, I'm a walker, and I'm like, we know you are. You don't have to keep telling us this. So that was a little frustrating, and I definitely think it took away from everything else that was very solid about the prose. And the characters were not bad, but I don't think they were as developed as in The Wicked Deep or in a bunch of other books that I've been reading recently where there's just really true sense of character. I felt that even the two main characters, Nora and Oliver, were a little bit flat, to be completely honest, and there was a little bit of insta-love going on, which it wasn't a horrible case of insta-love, but it definitely was, it was there a little bit, and like the romance was sweet, and you know, things progress, but it was, you know, I think that it would have done a better job if the book had been a little bit longer to flesh out that romance a little bit more. And I think also too in this book I basically called there were kind of two things, like plot twists and mysteries and big reveals, and I totally called them from like the chapter 5 or 6, which maybe the author was intending to do that, but if she was trying to keep things more of a mystery, which I think that's what was supposed to be going on. It wasn't very mysterious. But it still is an enjoyable read. Like, I don't regret reading it. You know, I think that the lore and the mythology is really interesting. Like, there definitely is a strong sense of place in this book. Like, the Wicker Woods are the woods by the house. And like, there's the Wayward Camp for Boys, which I do think is a little weird. That was something I had to suspend my disbelief on a bit, because there's this huge snowstorm. So basically with this book, it starts out with there's this just gigantic snowstorm, wiped out the power, wiped out the roads, just everyone's all isolated up here in Jackdaw Lake, which is where Nora and her family live. Her mom was out of town, so it's just her in her house, and her grandmother had passed away. And nobody came up to come see them. Like, what ends up happening is, and it's not really a spoiler because it happens pretty quickly in the book. Basically, like, I think the first sentence is a boy died. Oliver had gone missing the same night that one of the other boys died. Now, if somebody died at camp under mysterious circumstances, I still think that the police would show up in snowmobiles, or they would radio in or something like that. Even if the cell phones don't work, radio towers would probably work. I think there would be ways for them to communicate with the outside world, so I felt like that was a bit weird. And it also just made it very convenient that there are, like, no real adults except for this one older man walking around, really. So it was just mainly focusing on the teenagers, which, I mean, definitely people can get snowed in up in the mountains. It just, for the length of time and the fact that if you know this happens, I feel like you would invest in some kind of ham radio or like long distance walkie-talkies or something like that. And what would they do about food? And people didn't seem quite as worried to be snowed up there, except for Susie, who is one of the secondary characters who ends up spending the night a few times with Nora, and you get to know her a little bit. But again, that was like something where I'm like, okay. But the overall sense of place was neat, and I liked the sort of the various skills that the Walker women historically have been able to do. A lot of it was just very creative. There are these things called bone moths in the book that I really liked and thought was very interesting, where basically if you see a bone moth, it means somebody's going to die. And that was pretty well fleshed out, and like Nora's family history was really interesting to follow and read, and that was, you know, woven throughout this book. And the dual point of view wasn't bad. I think it probably would have been a stronger book if it was just told in Nora's point of view, but there are some passages from Oliver's point of view, and they were, you know, I could differentiate between the two, which is good, because sometimes in point of views they sound exactly the same and it just detracts from the story, and it didn't really detract or add, it just kind of was an aspect. But yeah, it is still very atmospheric and very eerie, and I did enjoy the ending. Even if I saw it coming from like a mile away, I was still like, well, you know, it was still good. I'd rather be satisfied with the ending that I could see coming, as opposed to a really terrible ending where it's like, oh, well, that kind of ruined the book for me. So that wasn't the case for this. It definitely is worth the read. It wasn't as good as The Wicked Deep, and I felt a little bit disappointed, just because it wasn't exactly, it didn't meet my expectations, and it wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. But it was still good. I'm so glad that I read it. I don't know if I would go buy a copy for myself for my collection, but if someone gave it to me, I would keep it. And I do think this cover is gorgeous. And in fact, there's an edition going on BookTube that's white, the white background, that also looks super cool. So anyway, thank you so much for watching my review. Again, 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's not bad, but it's also not, it has some flaws, and, it was enjoyable, but I don't know if I would read it again, as opposed to I would read The Wicked Deep again. But it's a good read for winter right now, so I definitely recommend going to pick up a copy, making your own opinions. Let me know if you do end up reading it, what your thoughts and opinions are. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching my video. Please comment, rate, subscribe, and I have a couple of videos planned over the next couple days, including one to celebrate my new subscriber count. I actually have 108 right now, so I better do my 100 subscriber count video and giveaway soon, so stay tuned for that, and also my winter reads recommendation videos coming up. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Happy Saturday, and I will talk to you guys later. Happy reading. Bye.